Hello, back again on the Top Recap channel. This time I will tell a movie's entitled The Union. Let's get straight into the storyline. The story begins by showing American spies who are carrying out a mission, where their mission this time is to secure a CIA agent who was kidnapped by the enemy because he was caught stealing confidential state data. This mission is led by field agents named Nick and Roxy. This mission seems to be going very smoothly.
Confirmed.
I was gonna go to the embassy and hand myself in.
But when the CIA agent was about to be taken to the car, Roxy felt there was something strange outside the location. When she wanted to tell the team, they were suddenly attacked. Roxy asked Nick and the others to leave as quickly as possible. However, on the way, they were shot at by enemy snipers. In addition, Roxy was also stopped when she wanted to catch up with her team. On the other hand, Nick reported to the backup team to immediately pick him up on the bridge. However, unfortunately, he and the CIA agent were shot by the enemy. The scene then switches, where we are shown a man named Michael, who has just had an affair with his former junior high school teacher. After returning from the teacher's house, Michael meets his mother to ask for breakfast. Surprisingly, his mum is proud to find out that her son has just had an affair with a woman. After that, Michael went back to his routine of working as a laborer near the railway tracks. Although he was just a laborer, he didn't feel burdened by the demands of an increasingly challenging life. After work, Michael goes to a bar to have a drink with his friends. Here, we can see that Michael's life is very peaceful without any problems. However, not long after, he is approached by Roxy, who turns out to be his ex-girlfriend from high school. Despite the awkwardness, the two of them end up reminiscing by playing pool late into the night and then taking a walk around the city. Throughout the night, Roxy kept complimenting Michael's good looks. She even tried to get him to date her again. However, it turned out that all those sweet words were just a trick, as Roxy suddenly injected an anesthetic into Michael's neck.
Sorry, Mikey.
The next day, Michael woke up in a hotel room. There, Roxy told him that after fainting, he had been taken to London to do something important. Suddenly, Michael was shocked because it happened so fast that he forgot that he had been drugged by his ex. Michael then rushed out of the hotel to go to his workplace because he thought Roxy was joking. But unexpectedly, he was now in London. Outside the hotel, Michael meets Roxy's boss, Brennan. Here, Brennan explains that his organization needs Michael's help to carry out an important mission. Of course, this made Michael even more confused. Roxy then tells him that she is a special agent working for a secret organization called the Union. This organization often works with the government to provide intelligence services. This time, they need Michael's help to carry out a previously failed mission, which is to retrieve secret data stolen by the enemy. To make the mission less conspicuous, they needed an ordinary person like Michael. Later, Roxy and Brennan invited Michael into the secret headquarters in Union to talk further. In that place, Roxy showed a photo of a woman named Julie Quinn, an auctioneer who reportedly received an offer to sell state-owned confidential data on the black market. So, the Union should be able to meet her and ask who the person who handed over the data was. After explaining this, Brennan took Michael to a place to test his fighting skills.
Oh, what the street is that? Sesame Street?
Surprisingly, it turned out that Michael already had the basics of fighting, so the Union's physical trainer only needed to develop them further. However, Michael was very upset because he thought Roxy wanted to get back together with him, but it turns out she just wanted to use him. Here, Michael brings up his past when Roxy left him without a word for 25 years. Upon hearing this, Roxy apologized for hurting his heart. She also explained that she was forced to leave Michael because of her job as an intel officer, so inevitably, she had to keep her identity a secret. In the midst of his doubts, Michael called his mother for advice. But unexpectedly, it turned out that his mother already knew that Michael was with Roxy in London. In his heart, he felt that his mother was better suited to be recruited by the Union because her intel skills were too strong. Later, his mother convinced Michael to treat Roxy well. If possible, he should marry her because Michael was getting old. After calling his mum, Michael decided to accept Roxy's offer. After all, his life had been too relaxed, so he needed a little adrenaline to make it more exciting. Without further ado, he embarked on an intense 6-month training program.
This is like 47.
Where are you from?
Boston, Massachusetts.
Long story short, he was ready for his mission. Then, he conducted a briefing with the team so that the mission would run smoothly. When everything was ready, he set up at the location with a support team that would split up to watch from a distance. He then carried a bag containing $5 million that would be used to buy an auction access code. That way, he could take part in the auction to buy the confidential data that Juliet would sell later. Unfortunately, Roxy sees a group of suspicious people watching Michael. Spontaneously, she asked each team member to be alert and ready to help her if there was a problem.
Who's got eyes on it?
We've got definite hostiles moving.
Michael then entered a cafe and found a vibrating mobile phone on a table. As it turned out, the call came from Juliet, the auctioneer. Then, Juliet instructs Michael to give the money to a man wearing an Arsenal jersey. After making sure the money was right, Juliet said that the auction access code was on the back of the mobile phone that Michael was holding. Proudly, Michael called his team and said that this mission was too easy for him. However, when he came out of the cafe, it turned out that Roxy and friends were fighting with another group who wanted to seize the auction code. Fortunately, the Union agents managed to take down the group and get Michael into the car. Unfortunately, the mobile phone that stored the code got wet after the battle. Here, one of the members said that his device was not detected, and he suspected that an intruder had leaked their plan. However, Brennan was confident that all of his team members were trustworthy, so his plan could not have been leaked from the inside. Now, he decided to steal the other group's auction codes before the auction took place.
Depends on it, not to mention the future of this organization. So
after the evaluation meeting, Michael apologized to Roxy for not being able to carry out his mission. However, Roxy said that there was still another chance before the auction was held in 48 hours, so she hoped that Michael would not be discouraged by his failure. The next day, they held a meeting to devise a plan to steal the auction code from another intel group. From the data obtained, there was intel from China, North Korea, Syria, and Iceland that had the auction code. The Union then chose to steal the code belonging to North Korean intel, which was in London, because according to the information obtained, North Korean intel only hired Russian mercenaries to guard their code. It was easier to deal with than other countries that had high levels of security. Later that night, they sneaked into the North Korean base guarded by Russian mercenaries. There, they saw no signs of North Korean agents, and the security was so lax that they suspected it was all a trap. But most importantly, they were able to get the auction code. After the signal to attack, Michael and his friends immediately took out all the guards. Long story short, they managed to get the auction code. However, when contacting the operator, Roxy did not hear an answer, which made her very worried. When she approached her, it turned out that the Union operator was dead. Then, in her car, one of the agents found a message that the Union headquarters would soon be destroyed. Suddenly, Roxy and Michael contacted Brennan to secure the building immediately, but unfortunately, it was too late because the building had exploded first. From here, the agents finally realized that there was an intruder inside the Union. Not long after, Brennan, who managed to survive, gave the news that he and some other agents had survived the explosion. Given the dangerous conditions, they decided to split up to outwit the enemy. Later, Michael and Roxy hid in a hotel affiliated with the Union. At the hotel, Roxy vented her emotions by crying because she had just lost her friends. She was devastated that dozens of Union agents were killed every time she went on a mission, and it made her feel guilty. As a true gentleman, Michael tried to calm her down and told her that it was a disaster, not Roxy's fault. The next day, they resumed the mission with the auction code they had obtained, as the auction would be held online in a matter of hours. After conducting a briefing, Roxy and Michael's team rushed to the auction site while the IT team followed the auction process from headquarters.
I have 100 million.
Bezos?
125.
You don't want to be worth.
275.
In this auction, the Union and the CIA continue to raise prices in order to get their data back. Meanwhile, Roxy and Michael were tasked with capturing Juliet and seizing her data directly. That way, the Union and the CIA could retake their money. Not long after that, the two of them finally arrived at the auction venue held by Juliet. Suddenly, they immediately held her at gunpoint and then asked who had given her the confidential data. However, Juliet did not want to tell because the risk was too dangerous. As a result, Roxy and Michael forced her to hand over the data briefcase that night. Feeling cornered, Juliet finally invited the two of them to her house to retrieve the object. After checking the authenticity of the data, Roxy and Michael left. However, at the same time, someone knocked on Juliet's door. Unexpectedly, it turns out to be Nick, who we saw at the beginning of the film. Here, Nick tells if he is pretending to be dead to investigate who the traitor is in the Union. Surprisingly, Roxy highly respects the traitor, namely, Brennan.
I'm Brennan. The stolen intel has... No.
At first, Roxy didn't believe it, but Nick convinced her with various evidence that Brennan had been in contact with foreign parties. On the other hand, Michael seemed unhappy with Nick's arrival, which he thought was very odd because if he already knew that Brennan was a traitor, why didn't he tell Roxy from a month or two ago? In addition, Michael also seems jealous of Nick, who seems to have a special relationship with Roxy. And sure enough, it turns out that Nick is Roxy's husband. Suddenly, this made Michael very heartbroken. After arguing with Michael, Nick then said that in the data suitcase, there was a clue that could prove that Brennan had indeed betrayed. Therefore, he suggested that Roxy hand over the briefcase directly to the CIA. Then, Nick asked Roxy and Michael to meet on a bridge while he would secure Juliet first, after which he would follow there to hand over the data to the CIA. On the way home, Roxy and Michael argued over Nick's appearance. Here, Michael was really disappointed and felt lied to, even though he had hoped to improve his relationship, but it turned out that Roxy was married and did not tell him at all.
I'll see you at the next high school reunion.
Michael, who was upset, chose to go to the bar. At that place, he was called by his old friend who was getting married. He then promised him that he would definitely come to the wedding after his work was done. However, Michael felt more and more sad every time he heard the word wedding. Despite his disappointment in Roxy, Michael eventually went to the bridge to complete his mission. In this place, he apologized for being too naive when he found out that Roxy was married. From now on, he would consider Roxy a good friend. After waiting for almost an hour, Nick had not yet arrived as promised. Not long after, Roxy gets a call from Nick, who is in a private jet. It turns out that the traitor she has been looking for all this time is Nick, her own husband. In addition, Nick also managed to take the original confidential data, because last night, he and Juliet had conspired to swap the suitcases, so the briefcase now held by Roxy was empty. Instantly, Roxy was very disappointed, because she had never thought that her husband would do such evil things. Not long after, the CIA came to the bridge to arrest Roxy and Michael. Here, they both tried to explain that Nick had taken the original data, but unfortunately, the CIA did not want to listen to the reason. Because she was cornered, Roxy gave the signal to Michael to trick them. After escaping the CIA's pursuit, Roxy said that she had put a tracking device in Nick's jacket during the meeting last night. Now, Nick was in Eastern Europe to sell the secret data. Unfortunately, she and Michael couldn't make the flight because the CIA had deemed them as traitors to the country who stole the classified data. As a result, Michael contacted his college friend, who worked as an aircraft unloader. And thanks to his friend, the two of them were finally able to smuggle themselves into a cargo plane. At the same time, Brennan has been arrested by the CIA on the same charges. As it turned out, Nick had indeed reported all Union agents to the CIA and the government. During interrogation, Brennan convinced the CIA agent that all of this was a hoax.
Joes, they're gonna be dropping like flies.
In the cargo hold of the plane, Roxy apologized to Michael for all her mistakes. In addition, she also said that Michael was a good and pleasant person. Hearing her ex's praise, Michael could only smile broadly. Arriving at their destination, the two of them immediately tracked down Nick and Juliet's whereabouts, who were now traveling on a boat together. Here, Roxy's anger increases many times over when she learns that Nick has been having an affair with Juliet. Long story short, Nick and Juliet meet with people who will buy confidential data. Then, as the negotiations are underway, Nick is surprised that Roxy suddenly appears and declares that she will throw him in jail. Meanwhile, Michael is on standby at a nearby location to oversee the transaction. Sensing that the negotiations were being disrupted, the buyers grabbed their weapons. As Michael took off with the confidential data, Roxy pointed a gun at Nick and Juliet. Here, both of them couldn't move because the data had been taken away, so they had nothing left. In addition, both of them are also threatened with the death penalty from the state. But, unfortunately, Nick was still able to find a way out and managed to escape. On the other hand, Michael, with his skills, was able to escape from the pursuit of potential buyers. Not long after, Roxy came to his aid. Although they managed to secure the data, the two of them again had to deal with Nick, who now managed to ambush Roxy. He then threatens to shoot her if Michael dares to resist. Fortunately, the prospective buyers arrive and disrupt the situation, allowing Roxy and Michael to escape again. As a result, they all return to the chase to seize the data that Michael was carrying. But unfortunately, Michael was thrown into the ravine. Here, Roxy immediately felt devastated and thought that Michael was dead. But, as a strong worker, Michael managed to save himself. Without wasting any time, the two of them chased Nick, who was about to take the data away through the harbor.
Okay, he hit the ground.
After cornering Nick, Roxy pulled a gun on him and forced him to hand over the data. However, because Nick still insisted on running away, Roxy finally shot him on the spot. After killing Nick, Roxy and Michael bring the secret data back to the government. At the end of the film, Michael goes to his best friend's wedding and gives a congratulatory speech.
To take this guy off of our hands.
Not long after, Roxy also comes to the event, making Michael very surprised. He also complimented her on her stunning appearance, and in the end, the two of them started dating again. At the end of the film, Brennan meets the two of them to give them a very important and very dangerous mission.
Welcome to the Union, Mike.